Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're opening up a highly structured academic study guide into the historical and philosophical logic of Buddhism. Whether you're a student of history or honestly just someone fascinated by how ancient philosophies shape our modern world, we are going to break down exactly how this tradition evolved from the life of one man into a massive global framework.
Okay, let's dive into this. The Buddha famously warned against taking his word as blind dogma. Instead, he taught that his teachings absolutely must match up with your own observable experience. So right from the jump, we're exploring a philosophical framework that actually demands questioning and empirical application. It's a really fascinating starting point.
So, here's our agenda for today. 1. The life of the Buddha. 2. Core teachings. 3. Afterlife concepts. 4. Rituals and practices. And 5. Major sects. We'll be moving right from the historical man all the way to global philosophical evolution.
Starting off with Section 1, the life of the Buddha. Picture this. It's 563 BCE, and Siddhartha Gautama is born into an aristocratic Hindu family of the warrior caste. He's living this completely sheltered, luxurious royal life in modern-day Nepal, basically shielded from any real human suffering. But at age 29, Siddhartha ventures outside the palace walls and encounters what historians call the four sights. He sees an old man, a sick man, a decaying corpse, and finally, a wandering ascetic. Obviously, he is shocked by this undeniable reality of aging, sickness, and death. It completely rocks his worldview. So he commits the great renunciation, abandoning his royal life entirely. For 6 years, he practices extreme asceticism. Literally starving himself until his bones were visible, hoping he could conquer suffering through physical mortification. Eventually, realizing that simply wasn't working, he discovers the middle way, a path of perfect moderation between total indulgence and severe self-torture. Sitting under the Bodhi tree, he finally attains complete insight, becoming the Buddha, or the Awakened One.
That brings us to Section 2, Core Teachings and Paths. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how the Four Noble Truths function exactly like a physician's diagnostic map of the human condition. First, you have the diagnosis, dukkha, the reality that suffering, or just a general underlying unsatisfactoriness, exists in all of life because everything is impermanent. Second is samudaya, the cause. What's causing this suffering? Well, it's our craving and fundamental ignorance, our mistaken belief that things are permanent. Third is nirodha, the prognosis. The really good news here is that the end of suffering is absolutely possible. And fourth is magga, the prescribed treatment, which is the actual path to enlightenment.
This perfectly builds into that fourth truth, the Noble Eightfold Path. Academically speaking, this actionable map is categorized into 3 crucial divisions of training. First up is wisdom, or prajna, which involves having the right view and right intention, basically understanding how reality actually works. Second, we have ethical conduct, or sila. This covers right speech, right action, and right livelihood. It's all about living harmoniously and non-violently in the world. And third is mental discipline, or samadhi, encompassing right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. You see, this isn't just a random list of rules to follow. It's a completely integrated map out of suffering. All right, Section 3, Samsara, Anatman, and Nirvana. Let's look at the metaphysical reality here. The entire backdrop of Buddhist philosophy is samsara. This is the continuous, painful cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. It's a cycle without any discoverable beginning, and it is entirely driven by karma. Now, it's absolutely vital to note here that the Buddha defined karma primarily as mental intention. It's this impersonal natural law where your intentional thoughts, words, and deeds directly dictate the conditions of this continuous loop. So the crucial point is how the Buddha viewed the individual navigating this cycle, and that brings us to Atman, or non-self. Now, in an ancient societal context that was completely obsessed with eternal souls, this was a radically empirical concept. The Buddha just flat out rejected the idea of an eternal, unchanging essence. Instead, he taught a middle way between eternalism and complete annihilation. In this view, a person is simply a causal series of impermanent processes. We're a continuously changing stream of elements, not a fixed, independent soul. It's like a flowing river rather than a solid block of ice. And the ultimate goal of the Buddhist path? That's nirvana. This is the complete cessation of suffering and the final liberation from that wandering cycle of samsara. The word itself actually carries the connotation of extinguishing or blowing out, specifically blowing out the fires of desire, hatred, and ignorance that keep the whole cycle of rebirth spinning. Moving right along to Section 4,
Buddhist rituals and practices.
Let's bring all this soaring philosophy back down to earth for a minute and look at daily life. Practitioners apply the Eightfold Path daily through some very specific rituals. Meditation is central, of course, primarily divided into samatha, which calms and concentrates the mind, and vipassana, which develops deep insight into that impermanent nature of reality we just talked about. Daily life also involves chanting, making offerings, and formally taking refuge in the three jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, which are the teachings, and the Sangha, the community. Crucially, Buddhists observe the 5 precepts, which are basically practical guidelines for ethical conduct. The absolute foremost of these is the commitment to nonviolence. We're talking strictly avoiding the killing or harming of any sentient beings.
Finally, Section 5, Major Sects of Buddhism. As this philosophy spread globally from the Indo-Gangetic plains, it naturally evolved into 3 major sects. First is Theravada, the teaching of the elders. It's the oldest surviving school, predominant in Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia, and it focuses heavily on the early Buddhist texts. Then we have Mahayana, the Great Vehicle, which spread largely to East Asia, including places like China and Japan. And Vajrayana, which is closely associated with Tibetan Buddhism, incorporates highly esoteric tantric paths. But beyond just geography, the most profound difference between these groups actually lies in their primary spiritual goals.
And this brilliantly illustrates a fascinating philosophical divide. In the Theravada tradition, the ultimate ideal is the arhat. That's a practitioner who fiercely applies the teachings to achieve individual liberation and end their own personal cycle of samsara. The Mahayana and Vajrayana traditions, however, focus on the bodhisattva path. A bodhisattva is someone who seeks complete enlightenment but intentionally delays their own final entry into nirvana out of just immense compassion. They vow to remain in the painful cycle of samsara until all other sentient beings are liberated as well. It's a profound shift in focus from the individual to the collective.
Which brings us right back to where we started. Buddhism asks us to observe reality closely. If, as the Buddha taught, our suffering is fundamentally rooted in our craving for things to remain permanent in a universe defined by constant change, we really have to look inward. If we must test these teachings against our own observable experience, how does the reality of impermanence shape your daily life? Are you holding on to things that are destined to change? It's a fascinating question to leave you with. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning the world around you.